Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Getting Over podcast. So we're talking wrestling of all forms, whether it's WWE, AEW, NXT, and everything in between. We've got the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I'll keep calling it a pay-per-view. Coming up, and we talk about who won last time's predictions. We've got all the news and everything wrestling you could want. Before we get started, please do take a moment to like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop any reviews you want to leave. And let's get these podcasts out there, people. Let's do it. Right. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Getting Over.
Recording in progress.
Hello. Welcome one and all to episode 45 of Getting Over on the CookieCast Network. And whether this is your first or 45th time, everybody's welcome, so thank you very much for listening. If you have heard us before, you will know that I am never alone on this venture and look at all things WWE and wrestling over the last month or so. And joining me on this episode we have Mr. Andy Cook.
Hello.
Mr. Paul Williams.
Evening.
And Mr. Matthew Moore.
Hello.
How are we all? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, can't complain.
Good. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our regular listeners and subscribers. And it's fair to say that we definitely appreciate each and every one of you. And Getting Over, as you will know if you've been listening along, is giving back to you guys. So as a thank you to the subscribers, we actually have 2 Alexa Bliss Funkos still up for grabs to give away once we reach 100 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're listening and you've never watched, just change it up one time. Just head over to YouTube, check us all out on there. You'll also see obviously the videos from the other CookieCast podcast, The Darkest Timeline, the Straight to the Apex F1 podcast, the football podcast when the season comes back, amongst other goodness as well. So go and check us out. So yeah, right. Predictions title time. As we always like to start with that, let's go with it. So the all-important title, the Getting Over Predictions Championship. And last time, following Hell in a Cell, it was me, which was a huge surprise. I mean, kind of on a technicality if we're really keeping score on the old tie break. But as history shows, me and that title seem to go together like Sasha Banks and a Raw Women's title. So, yeah, will my terrible defensive streak continue? In a word, yes. So, in one of the most closely contested predictions efforts we've had in recent memory, I managed to come last. Yeah, fantastic job. Well, I wasn't even alone in that venture, as Paul joined me on 4 out of 6 points. Well, 4 out of 6 is...
4 out of 6?
I mean, come on. Batted at more than 50% there.
Well, that just leaves Andy and Matt to be the ones battling it out. And with a more than credible 5 out of 6, taking second place was Andy. So those of you that, are counting on your fingers and stuff at this point in time will realise that Matt has not only won, but has won with 6 out of 6 clean.
It's only a clean sweep.
Ripping the title away from me with that clean sweep as well. So congratulations, Matt. I mean, I think there was a point very soon after the pay-per-view had aired in real time, and I know we were sort of messaging amongst ourselves, but I'm pretty sure Matt probably had a good idea of the 6 before the message went on the group. So it was.
Ooh, that looks interesting. That looks all familiar.
See, I was going to be that guy, because if I had won, I was going to demand that my name was engraved on this version of the title, because, having it so many times and all, but That didn't work out, did it? So I'll just go and sit in the corner and be quiet.
Well, so Matt has got the task of trying to hang on to that now. So we will see where the predictions take us towards the end of the podcast. But in possibly the most news-heavy month we have ever known on Getting Over, and not all of it is good, we should probably start on that. So the power in WWE has shifted, possibly temporarily, but a shift nonetheless. And for the first time since 1982, Vince McMahon is not at the head of the company. And this is all thanks to an ongoing investigation into alleged previous misdemeanors of both Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis. The Wall Street Journal published a report of a multi-million-dollar hush money payment, or two, or three, or we're not entirely sure, to women who had allegedly had sexual relations with Vince McMahon. And the allegations were fueled when the board of WWE were contacted by someone who knew an employee who was just randomly paid $3 million separate to their regular salary. And following that, other payments and legal agreements have been uncovered according to the report. Obviously, this is some stuff that the Wall Street Journal have been involved in digging up. Isn't stuff we've obviously done ourselves, so we will base our information off of what has been released to the public thus far. Following the release of the allegations and the report, Vince voluntarily stepped back as CEO, and Stephanie McMahon was named interim CEO by a special committee. When I did a bit more digging on this, because I felt I had to, because obviously Vince would be on that committee and Stephanie would regularly be on that committee, amongst other people. I was somewhat relieved to find out that 8 members of the board of the directors were involved in making that decision. Vince, Stephanie, Triple H and Nick Khan, surprisingly, were not involved in the decision-making process according to the reports in Wrestling Observer newsletter. So at least it hasn't been a case of I'm just sticking myself in charge.
Can I just pull something up there? So they had a decision to make, and if I'm assuming it was based on potentially a vote sort of scenario. So like, if they basically sort of had like a couple of names to put to sort of like to the party as to who could take over. Does having an even number of parties voting not seem like a really stupid idea?
I hadn't actually thought about that, but absolutely yes.
So would it not have been better to have had a 9-party committee or a 7-party committee, so you were definitely going to get a majority vote?
I would. The cynical person in me would say those 4 people walked out of the room, and the 8 people left in the room were told, vote for Vince to temporarily step down and put Stephanie in charge, and they went, yeah, we'll do that unanimously. Therefore, I don't think it could have been 100 people in there, and again, that is an even number of people, and I still think it would have come out with the same result kind of thing. It could have been 1 person in there or 2 people in there. There's still the same result would have come out. I would say at the moment it appears to be a publicity stunt. At the moment, we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, we shall come to the publicity stunt bit in a second.
Well, yeah, they kind of doubled down on that one, didn't they?
Just digging into it further as well. So if effectively 4 people weren't involved in the decision making, you would assume that the people who weren't allowed to be involved in the decision making were the people that either had allegedly been doing wrong-uns, or if they were potentially going to be the ones put in charge. So you would assume that Stephanie was always, like you say, always going to be within that role. Triple H probably not, because of his recent sort of health stuff and only just getting back into work and all that business. So I'd be interested once all this is sort of like put to bed one way or another. I mean, probably should have phrased that better, Vince. Nick Khan. it's been speculated for a long time that it's him that's sort of on the up, if you like, and trying to get his foot in the door of the top job. So was he not involved in that decision-making process because he thought he was maybe doing it? That was what I took from it, because otherwise, if he wasn't, why was he then, as you rightly pointed out, why was he not the odd number that would have made that up? So that was just a thought. But yeah, as Matt sort of alluded to, the publicity stunt kind of stuff. So an interesting point amongst all of this is that whilst the corporate responsibilities have been lifted from Vince while the investigation is going on, he still remains in creative control and has even appeared on TV live twice since the allegations broke. Oddly enough, they have a rating spike when that happened, because the first time was on SmackDown, and it was marketed well before the show was set to air. Vince McMahon will address the crowd live. It weren't wrong. He did do that, but he basically just welcomed everybody to SmackDown and reiterated the then, now, forever together bit from the start of all WWE programming. Again, probably not words that should be coming out of Vince McMahon's mouth right by now. But hey, so yeah, that was a bit of a cheap move. But do we really put it past Vince at this stage?
I think it's a kind of vain bid to show his value to the company in a way, kind of thing. He's like, oh yeah, you know, and let's face it was a bit of a circus show anyway, because they probably got a bump from just people who'd watched the news and was like, so he's really going to go on TV after all these allegations come out? And yeah, of course he did. And then you can go on and watch it and then be further outraged by the fact that he just came out and trotted out their slogan. And then, of course, you know, I didn't make the joke on Twitter, but then it kind of turns into a Twitter joke of like, oh yeah, you know, then, now, forever, together. You're kind of like, yeah, all right then, mate, settle down, kind of thing.
Or as some WWE former employees now know it as, then, now, together, forever, $3 million, please. Oh dear. So yeah, and seemingly amidst all of this, as I mentioned, Triple H has returned to work and being quoted as announcing, "I'm back in front of talent at the WWE Performance Center." Could this mean Triple H is back to a position of power in NXT following his recent health scare? Paul is crossing the fingers there. It's never going to be black and gold again, though, is it?
Yeah, well, you know, any sort of change that would actually make the show watchable would be decent. So,
I mean, that is a bad rap. That is a man who probably has not watched it, but
absolutely
for that reason. No, but I think NXT's in a really weird place at the moment where every match in the black and gold standings could potentially have been main event. And they've gutted the card now to the point where they very much have a lower, mid, and upper. But the problem is that there is so much lower and mid that the upper is kind of getting lost for me at the moment within NXT. But the landscape is very different for Triple H going back in since, you know, the position that he left at the time, because his main two guys would have been Regal and Road Dogg, and they're now both gone. You know, Shawn Michaels is essentially last man standing at this point, but NXT 2.0 has kind of been born under his guidance. So whether or not that means he's there to kind of prolong that, or, you know, whatever it's going to happen, I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm glad that Triple H is back, and hopefully he can start sort of beefing up the card a little bit in terms of interest. So yeah,
it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously Nick Khan's been the guy that's been releasing all these ex-indie kind of wrestlers, and he's still the main kind of guy. And then Triple H is going to come back in and obviously try and change around what's going on at NXT. I haven't watched it in ages. Would be the honest truth in it. And from what I have seen of it, I haven't really got much interest in watching it again for a while, because whenever I watched it before, there was always clear storylines, there was clear character kind of arcs and stuff like that. There was characters you could get behind, and from what I've seen so far, like from the bits that I've seen, there's never been a character that I've thought, yeah, I want to get behind that. And the storylines haven't been particularly obvious, because there's always that threat of somebody's just going to disappear as well. I think that's the other thing for me, is that somebody you could be really enjoying on the show could either get promoted to the main roster and made into a manager of a male model group or something like that, or could just be binned off to then turn up at AEW in 1 to 3 months or 30 to 90 days, whichever one you want, kind of thing. It's just, I don't know, like they want a hardcore following. I don't know whether do they want a hardcore following, but NXT, and I know you can't stick with the black and gold, but well, you could, but you either want a hardcore following or you don't, and you completely ruin that. That was your. I know they didn't compete with AEW as such, or they struggled to compete with AEW, but that was your AEW rival. I don't think Raw and SmackDown are that, because they're two completely different shows in a way, and both could do with a little bit of each other. But like the NXT is just it's not the NXT that I wanted to watch before.
See, the thing I never really understood was surely the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, could not apply any more perfectly to this situation, because I don't think they were getting particularly bad ratings, were they? For the sort of the TV shows when it was on. I know that obviously they'd moved it from the Wednesday night slot to the Tuesday night slot, and there was a lot of people that said that it had gone from obviously being the hour-long format to being the 2-hour-long format, and that was kind of the sort of the beginning of the end sort of thing for it being the way that it was. But yeah, it just seemed as if it was running along nicely, and then all of a sudden it was decided, let's change it. But that literally came out of nowhere. There wasn't anything that had sort of been a sort of a warning to say, "Ooh, so and so isn't doing that well. Let's take the belt off him and go in a different direction." It just changed, seemingly overnight. And there was something that I'd seen a couple of weeks back, where it said that anyone new coming into the company, they've got something written into the contract where it says if they haven't shown progression in their career within 60 days, they can be cut from the contract without any sort of questions being asked or something like that. And
we talked about that on the podcast maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago now, probably, maybe even a little longer than that. And as with a lot of things in the world at the moment that seemingly have taken a step back in time, why have they done it to NXT? Because they've just turned it 80s, because everything's big wacky bright colours that might as well be neons and the big hair and all this bit. And Matt mentioned about the no clear storylines, there's not massively, but the characters on there aren't a patch on what the characters on NXT, the black and gold version, you related to because there was an element of believability about it. And then if you remember watching what would be sort of now classed, I guess, as golden era WWF, where it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Big Boss Man and all this, they all had a job, or they had Doink, so he was a clown or whatever. Whereas they go back down the route.
They were a profession, you usually, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where,
But then those that weren't a profession had like an outlandish kind of attire. So again, I mentioned Doink, or you might Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with all the other stuff. They had like that kind of full-on gimmick character that was probably way closer to comic book than it ever was to the believability that like say NXT Black and Gold was. And it feels a little bit like it's been long enough now since like the 80s and possibly very early 90s. Can we maybe have another go at this? I don't think it sits, because the people that still stand by it remember those people and they hold them in high regard because of what they did at the time. But that's 40 years ago nearly now.
But that's the thing as well. You listen to the. I'm listening to the 25 phrases that changed wrestling on. It's on Spotify. It's a Spotify exclusive one. And it's all about the attitude. Or I defined the attitude here. That was the thing, and it was. And the main kind of premise behind that is the Click and Triple H and Shawn Michaels went to Vince and went, the product shit, mate. This can't work anymore. People don't want to be trotted. They don't want a shonky lawyer trotted out in front of you, or a psycho dentist, or whatever you want. People don't believe it anymore. People want the real stuff. And it seems like it's gone, all right, we'll get them out the door, like the people that said no, that this isn't working, we need to do something different. And we'll go back to trying that again. And you just think, it's kind of blatantly obvious he spends zero time around his grandchildren, because he would know if he spoke to his grandchildren that they wouldn't fall for this shit. We either spend time around kids or no kids, and we know that kids would not fall for a wrestler that is, take your pick, a security guard, a policeman, lumberjack, whatever. They don't fall for that now. They want to see real things. And the problem is as well, they want to see relatable things as well. It's all well and good having the big monsters, but the thing that made NXT good was you looked at, and I'm not saying that I looked at Johnny Gargano and I thought, yeah, I could do that, because I couldn't, because I'd break my nose the first time I tried to jump off a rope. But there was an element of relatability to them. They weren't these jacked super athletes that were first class collegiate athletes and stuff like that. They were highly skilled wrestlers. They wanted to be wrestlers. They didn't fail at what they did before, which was a high level of sport before, and then go, what shall I do now? And then Uncle Vince came and knocked on the door with $3 million. Oh no, sorry, that was something else that he did. But he came and knocked on the door and went, I'll give you a job, and
Phrasing.
But even the kind of one of the episodes is the Die Rocky Die kind of thing, where they talk about the original version of The Rock and how that was a terrible character that they gave him, because it was kind of based in blatant possible racism kind of thing of people from the islands look like this and dress like this, and it's going back to that, and you just think, don't really want to mention him, but Jordan Devlin is now J.D. Monahan. And you're like, his name was Jordan Devlin. That was Irish enough. It was Irish enough. It didn't need to be Monahan and, they might as well have tried to dress him up in a leprechaun outfit, because that's just how cheesy it was going to be.
But this is the thing, it makes no sense. So, in theory, NXT 2.0 is supposed to be the third offering, the third brand. So they're not treating it as developmental anymore, blah blah blah. It's still its own separate entity, etc., etc. If you're a WWE fan, you're probably watching NXT or NXT UK. You have seen these people. So the first question is, well, hang on a second. Why the fuck's he changed his name? Why am I supposed? This was perfectly summed up by the fact that on the After the Bell podcast a couple of weeks ago, Corey Graves was talking about Gunther, and then obviously had to bleep himself on his own podcast because he referred to him as Walter about 8 times in one sentence. And obviously they were like, hang on a second, we can't actually do that. We can't put it out as it is because that'll confuse everybody. So let's just bleep it every time he says his old name, because even though he works for the company, he's obviously forgotten to call him by his new name, even though everyone knows him by his old name.
But like, listening to that must have been fairly confusing on the basis, did it not just sound like he was calling him a massive...
Yeah, so I was like, is he just calling him a prick every time he like saying, oh yeah, he did this move, and so bleep did this move, and then bleep, and then bleep, and it was like, whoa, fucking hell, is he that much of a twat to him that he's just basically sort of like lifting him constantly? Did he try and get off with Carmella or something? And he's just having nothing. Yeah, like that will, I'll never understand that, because it's not as if they're coming from a completely different company and they have to try and keep the IP.
You see, I think some of it, especially the ones that are coming through NXT UK to NXT and so forth, a lot of those guys do wrestle using their own name, and therefore have to change it for... Well,
that's fine, but why was that not, like, you know, treated at source? Like, when they signed for the company, it's not as if it's NXT UK, it's nothing to do with WWE.
So what you're saying is, if they've not shown progression within the 60 days, don't change their name and let them leave. But if they have shown progression, there we are. So anyway, we digressed somewhat, but we shall move on. So we mentioned things from the 80s. We'll also speak about somebody else who's been around for a fairly long time, in that this week WWE is celebrating the 20 years of Cena. Man, that makes me feel so old, especially when I've heard people talking about, oh yeah, the reason why I watched it when I was growing up was John Cena. No, you mean like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, right? No, John Cena. Oh my God, I'm so old. But one point to note in the whole back to the AEW WWE thing was that this week, making an appearance via video link, was The Big Show, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, or Paul Dragon Balls, whichever you want to call him, and also as well they had Chris Jericho. So obviously 3 people who are now in AEW who are heavily associated with WWE. Great that they did it. Happy that they were on there. WWE can't resist getting that last little kick in the nuts in, can they? On the basis of they had like other people like Stone Cold and all the rest of it, and it had like their like WWE Hall of Famer underneath their name, or if there was anybody that was not in AEW but wasn't in the Hall of Fame, it'd say like WWE Legend or something underneath their name. Chris Jericho, just Chris Jericho. Big Show, just Big Show. And Daniel Bryan, yeah, you guessed it, just Daniel Bryan. There was no fanfare for them, no little add-on.
It sounds to me, Stuart, like you're accusing them of a little bit of pettiness there.
Me? Does that sound like stuff they've done before? Anyway, yeah, I thought it was nice that they got back, because those 3 guys particularly have had big parts in Cena's career. But it still feels like they did him just a little bit dirty on the way. So, anyway, Brock Lesnar has also made his return to WWE, taking out the Bloodline on SmackDown last week. And as a result, the main event for SummerSlam has already been set. So we now have a WrestleMania rematch of Roman Reigns defending the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight title versus Brock Lesnar, but this time in a last man standing match. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm all right with it, actually. Yeah, I thought at this point that I would have been a little bit more sort of, well, is it not time that we get something different? But obviously, he's working a reduced schedule, and for a time, we're not actually talking about Brock. So it was fairly obvious that we were going to get we were going to get a title defense until SummerSlam. So yeah, I don't have any problem with it, and the fact that it's that type of match probably makes sense because we've seen a lot of pinfall victories in their matches before, so this gives them a bit more creative freedom, shall we say.
And they won't have to chase each other all the way around a stadium now either, so I don't know, wait a minute, that was Money in the Bank. Anyway, so yeah, so that's we've talked about returns, but you know, as it's getting over, we haven't yet talked about releases. So one of the former WWE releases actually turned up on AEW this week, and the form of Claudio Castagnoli, which is, if for those that don't know, the real name or original ring name perhaps of former WWE superstar Cesaro. And ironically, he replaced Bryan Danielson in a match against Zack Sabre Jr. So a guy that basically spent the last year of his WWE career wrestling Daniel Bryan has now gone over, filled in for him, and seemingly also joined his stable, which is now comprising of some absolute hefty talent in that company. So I'm still not sold on the name.
What did Zack Sabre Jr. call it as well? He gave it a new name, didn't he?
Was it like I think it was like the Blackpool Croquet Club or something
like that.
Oh, that
was it, the Blackpool Crochet Club. That was
it. Having listened to something with John Moxley on this week, who admitted that he's never been to Blackpool, I just have visions now of Regal being like, right, lads, trip, that's it, just insane. But yeah, happy to see the artist formerly known as Cesaro back on TV. Hopefully he won't follow the suit of former WWE stars that then wrestle a couple of matches on Dynamite and then spend the rest of their career on Dark for AEW, but we'll see. I hope not. He deserves better than that. And finally, for the news section, we mentioned about Stephanie being interim CEO. Well, it seems to be the month of all things interim, as we have a new AEW interim world champion in John Moxley, who beat New Japan star Tanahashi to take the title in the absence of injured champion CM Punk. I'm not like the whole thing about them bringing they're clearly going to bring the titles back together when Punk's fit. It kind of writes itself. I'm not too concerned about that kind of story wise, but just a little side note for Moxley, who seemingly had a hell of a year last year, not only with his own personal demons, adding to the mix a brand new baby, and just throwing one in there for Andy that I don't know if you know, but he also had a book out in that time.
Just a book, or was it a book and an album?
Well, I mean, he did an audio book that probably would have been released on a TV, so maybe.
There we go.
But yeah, I mean, just without the book, even without the book, that is still one hell of a year. So it's a nice little story of redemption. And if you do get the chance, because he is part of the Crochet Club as well, if you do get the chance to see the photograph with him bloodied, holding the title with the other guys around him, if you're ever going to think, right, what is this company all about? Put your best guys in this photograph. That kind of explains what AEW should be to me. So, very, very good. So yeah, as I say, new AEW interim world champion. That does bring us to the end of the news. I told you it was hefty this time around. So we'll take a very, very small break. Blink and you'll miss it. Don't go anywhere. We shall be right back with the predictions for Money in the Bank.
Recording in progress.
And just like that, I told you, you blinked, we're back. And here we go then. WWE Money in the Bank 2023 prediction time. And Money in the Bank comes to us live this weekend from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you thought you were going to watch in a football stadium, still not happening. And as always, the match card is taken from WWE.com and is correct at time of recording. And based on the information, we have 6 matches to predict this evening, so we'll get stuck straight in. First up on my list, I have the undisputed tag team title match, so the Usos going in as champions, defending against the Street Profits. The Street Profits beat the Usos in a championship contenders match via countout. But a win is a win, and they still get the title shot. The Usos have been on a bit of a tear again since becoming champions, almost replicating the run of the leader of the Bloodline and his WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship. Can the Usos remain the ones, or will the Street Profits be the ones to stop them in their tracks? What do we think? Who wants to go first this time around?
I've gone with the Usos. I think they'll at least kind of keep the Bloodline thing going, at least till SummerSlam.
Okay. You are in the book. I am seeing nods of agreement all round. Is that the same for Andy and for Paul?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is, and potentially, can I offer up the option that I think that we could see the beginning of the split, the Street Profits after this one.
Ooh, but will they work as singles?
I think the company's very high on Ford. I think Dawkins could be getting his walking papers within the next 12 months. Let's put it that way. If they split up, I think it might be a case of we'll see what happens.
I mean, Paul's been very generous there by WWE standards, because 12 months is a hell of a long time.
I mean, I said within the next 12 months. So.
Unfortunately, for points-wise on the predictions, I am also going to Usos. So it's a clean sweep across the board. Money in the Bank this time, it feels like it should be a big deal because the Money in the Bank stuff is important. So as a pay-per-view, it should carry that kind of gravitas as well. But because of everything that's happened with, moving it from the stadium and all the rest of it, it feels like it's not even necessarily like a B pay-per-view for me at the moment. And in terms of the Usos losing the titles, I can't see that happening. There are rumours that the 2 title belts, so the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships that are currently lugging around with them, are going to be replaced by a singular belt. Seems a good enough time to do it that they could possibly win it and either drop it in on the end of the match or maybe even on Raw the following night. So we shall see. Again, a bit of speculation as to if that's going to happen, what it could look like, but why not just go back to the old penny tags, so the version that they had before the Raw and SmackDown? I quite like them. But
what? And give up the possibility for more dollar bill? Come on, son, you know how this game works.
Well, what they could do is they could mash them both up and put the silver plates of the new ones on the black strap of the old one, and then it's a new belt.
Oh, we're getting. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting a completely new design on reconstituted leather that's been fashioned from Mankind's face. I don't know. It's going to be all those sort of things. But it's definitely a new. It's definitely a new belt. Will definitely cost at least $200 retail. Come on, you know how it works.
If they're going to do it properly, then it needs to have removable side plates so they can sell them as well. Anyway, we shall move on to the second match on the card. So I have the Raw Women's title match, which is Bianca Belair going in as champion versus Carmella. This match has been chopped and changed quite a few times, seemingly, thanks to an injury to the initial number 1 contender, which was Rhea Ripley. Has anybody seen what she did? So they had a match, like a number 1 contenders match, and there was a point at which she was performing one of her moves and delivered that move to said opponent, carried on rolling through somewhat, and effectively kneed herself in the mouth, quite badly. And not only is it, I think, given her some sort of dental issue, but was enough to possibly cause some sort of concussion as well, which is, I mean, yes, technically it looks like she's kind of done it to herself, but the momentum was, nobody was going to stop that. So I kind of feel bad for her in that regard.
Doesn't matter. Nothing will ever top what Cesaro did to his teeth on the top of the ring post that time. That was brutal.
Yeah, that was horrible. And if anybody hasn't seen that, but has possibly played crocodile dentist with their children, it was a little bit like that, where the teeth got pushed in. Just grim. Very grim. So following the announcement of Rhea Ripley's injury, they had a rehashed Fatal 5-Way match to crown the replacement number 1 contender. So Becky Lynch, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Alexa Bliss all fought it out. And then eventually the self-proclaimed most beautiful woman in all of WWE, Corey Graves' other half, Carmella, stole the win. Again, do we think that by the way that this has been set up and it's a bit kind of hashed together, do we think there's any chance that Carmella's actually going to win the title?
No.
Wow. This is the sort of thing, though, where it feels very obvious that, like, Bianca's going to win, and based on all of the shaking heads and Paul obviously verbalising it.
That wasn't the question you asked, Stuart. You said, "Well,
okay.
How you?"
Okay. I will stop putting things in the book for you then, Paul, if you want to take it from there.
Well, no, it's just a case of you, like, you had it all sort of like sewn up that she wasn't winning the title, and then we all agreed she doesn't have to win the title, but she can still win the match.
Okay. So are you picking Carmella?
I mean, I'm absolutely not, but just don't want you to be jumping to conclusions there, big man. So just slow your roll, big boy.
Is this not the perfect time for a bit of old school WWE storyline shithousery on the basis of it means absolutely nothing, so therefore why not?
Obviously, I'm assuming I'm gonna jump into the head of the creative department and presume they probably have no desire to not have Bianca Belair as the champion at this particular time. So I can't see it being a situation where they were going to put it on Rhea. I mean, if they did, I don't think there'd been any complaints from pretty much anybody. But it's obviously just not in their plans at the minute. So
I think had it been Ripley, you could have seen it go into a double count out, disqualification, whatever, and then Rhea maybe having it offer at SummerSlam potentially. But now it already feels like they're just going to fill it until she's back and then just start again from there. So as much as I was trying to sort of play that out, I have also picked Bianca. So that's a Bianca Belair win for everybody. So 2 predictions in, everybody has the same prediction so far. Interesting. Okay, so third on the card, I have the US title match, which is defending champion Theory going in against Bobby Lashley. Good old Bobbly. So these guys have been going back and forth ever since Theory refused to give Lashley a title shot. Lashley then beat Theory in the first ever Theory Invitational Pose Down. Now, if you've ever heard of a spot straight out of Vince McMahon's playbook, that is it. Big, what was it Big E used to say? Big meaty men slapping meat was the phrase he used to use. During that, Theory ended up blinding Bobby Lashley with lotion, another Vince McMahon staple, surely. This absolutely set Bobby Lashley off.
Could only have been made better if it was ass cream, I suppose.
The Ass Boys is a different show, Paul. The rage, the pure rage of the lotion carried Bobby Lashley through a gauntlet match, beating Chad Gable, Otis, and then Theory himself at the end to earn a title match at this weekend's Premium Live event. So, who wins? Simple question. Theory to keep the title, or Lashley to take it from him? Andy, do you want to go first this time?
I do, because I want to get in there before Paul. Because I am about to unleash what is known in the business of show and WWE as a Paul Williams special. So, Bobby Lashley wins through disqualification. Theory retains the title.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of shenanigans going on here. All sorts of jiggery and, in fact, pokery. And that is my prediction.
All right. You are in the book for Lashley. There was some nodding from Paul as if you'd kind of stamped on his toes there, but he was happy about it, kind of thing.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing. Slag.
So, shall I put you down for the exact same thing?
Yeah, put me down for the same thing, but I'll have the Theory gets himself counted out.
Okay. I am gonna put, not that this particular bit is gonna carry a point, but I'm gonna put that on there just so I remember when I'm checking it off. Matt,
do you know what? We haven't seen that for I feel like we haven't seen that for a while, where a heel just takes the cowardly way out of just running and gets himself counted out. So
Theory has had that in him as well so far, in the sense of the thing with Mustafa Ali, where he won a number one contenders match last time, if you remember, and then made him take it straight away whilst he was still feeling the effects of the match. Which, so I guess that would kind of, if he does do that, would kind of carry on Theory's run of heelish antics, shall we say. Matt?
Andy and Paul have kind of pissed all over my Mr. Chips on that one, because I thought they're not going to take the title off Theory, but there's no way that Lashley's going to lose clean to him. I wonder whether there's some kind of Cena cock-up in this kind of thing, that because obviously they've been teasing that, haven't they? And Theory's been taking the piss out of him quite a lot. So yeah. Lashley to win. Yeah. Maybe I'm going to go Theory to win by like disqualification. I think.
Okay.
It's not going to be
the thing there. You should have gone for Theory to win by Lashley getting counted out.
Well, it's going to be something like that, isn't it? Kind of thing. It's going to be.
Yeah, but everyone knows now, Matt, because you've said it on the podcast that you think it'll happen by disqualification. So if it happens by count out now, you double the fun.
I still wouldn't put this Theory would.
That fucking.
I'm just going to put Theory, straight up Theory win. So I think that again I can't disagree with you guys. There will be some shenanigans, but I wouldn't put it past him having his feet on the ropes or something like that. So I will say
can't say hands in the tides anymore.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. But I think from the range of predictions, we kind of have every heel finish or every heel 101 finish covered. So we
which ultimately means Lashley's going over clean, kind of thing.
Yeah, more than likely. So yeah, we do have a split finally in the predictions. Okay, so fourth on the card, the SmackDown Women's title. So Ronda Rousey going in as champion, defending against Natalya. Ronda is in her first run as SmackDown Women's champion, and who better to get her started on the run than the woman who trained her? Natalya is often overlooked and the ever-present of the WWE's women's division, and has once again stepped up at the time she's been needed, especially in a division currently kind of full of holes. Thanks, Sasha, Naomi. Yeah, I said it. Natalya's promo work in the build-up to this match has been some of the best of her career, and if you haven't seen it, I fully recommend going and seeing the entirely cosplayed to the hilt parody of Ronda Rousey last week on SmackDown. complete with not only the eye makeup and the leather jacket, but also the pushchair in the ring, which was excellent. So yeah, will WWE now do the unthinkable and kill the momentum of Ronda Rousey? Or will her bad reputation prevail once again in the battle of the submission specialists? I will take this one, and I would bloody love it if Natalya won. I really like Natalya, and again, you probably tell by the way that I put that together that she has not only been the ever-present of the women's division recently, but Jesus Christ, she has been there forever. Like if there's gonna, I know they've already had like a Bella's sort of commemorative title or whatever. Natalya definitely deserves something to that as soon as that option arises. Unfortunately, it's probably more in Natalya's nature to be the one that puts people over as opposed to the one getting put over. So to that end, I am picking Ronda, and on the basis as well it's a submission match, it makes it a little more difficult, I assume, for the hokey finishes that we mentioned for the last prediction. Andy?
Yeah, I'm with you. Ronda to retain. I just think, yeah, it's just for now, she'll keep that title.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, same for me. Just going back to the Natalya thing, it'd be interesting to sort of see, like, track the number of days worked for the company against number of days as champion in the company, and see if she's got like the lowest ratio of anyone in the company.
I think
there'll definitely be people who've been in the company and never held a championship at all. So she will be. You'd imagine that she will be like, you know, up there with the lowest percentage. But like you say, she's been pretty much a permanent fixture since the late 2000s.
I think they always. I mean, I know that the whole thing about being the BOAT, like best of all time, was like her thing for a little while, and the statistics have been released about she's had the most matches of any woman in WWE and had the most wins. Wasn't championship wins, as we know. So having the most matches and then being and I hate this phrase, but they put it out there, the winningest woman in all of WWE. It's not a real word. That's unfortunately for her purely playing the percentages thing. You know, you buy enough tickets, you'll eventually win the lottery, kind of a deal. But yeah, Matt, are you going to be the one brave enough to pick Natalya, or are you still sticking with Ronda?
Ronda. Yeah.
Damn it.
They're desperate at the moment. You know, we've already talked about them bringing Broccoli back, and they're just desperate. They're desperate to get any eyes on them. So there's no way they're going to give it to Natalya.
And it's in Vegas. And obviously, Vegas is where she headlined loads of UFC pay-per-views, isn't it? So,
even though all the UFC fans will be watching the UFC because somehow or other they booked to do it the same night as the UFC kind of thing, hence them not being able to sell out a football stadium. I mean, Christ, like how Nick Khan hasn't been fired for that decision is shocking. I mean, if they would have done it the Sunday night, if they just would have had this Sunday night, they might have sold out the football stadium, but no. And then they're going up against UFC again for SummerSlam. Just FYI, just so people know. It's stupid. Different city though this time, so you know.
I mean, you said how was Nick Khan not being fired for that decision? I mean, if there's ever a time to make a monumental cock up like that, it's probably the time when your boss has been investigated by.
Probably was the papers. It was probably him. He was like, "Oh Christ, I've messed this up. I've been keeping this."
This decision came long before this shit all started kicking off.
It did. Remind me at the end to loop back to something regarding the Stephanie stuff as well. We shall keep that bit. But yeah, that's everybody then going for Ronda. So this this is where it's going to either really mix things up, or will really hammer home that Paul and Andy will be cheering on Lashley something chronic this weekend. So the women's Money in the Bank match.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so next on the card we have the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And this year it's been contested back in front of a live crowd, so we don't get the live version of Donkey Kong that we had a couple of years back with the women climbing the WWE headquarters. We are back to traditional ladders, which is probably safer for the women of WWE not having to climb the headquarters given the recent investigations. But yeah, WWE.com has confirmed that 7 women are set to compete for the contract on Sunday. Sunday? Saturday? I'm confused now. Saturday. Man, that's tradition just sneaking into my notes. But yeah, 6 of the women have been named before this week, with Becky Lynch making up the final entrant on Raw this past Monday. Of the competitors in the match, only Alexa Bliss has held the case previously, who cashed in on Nia Jax the same night she won. Is that experience going to prove vital, or are we going to see a first-time holder? So, to go through the full list of competitors, we have Lacey Evans, who qualified first, Raquel Rodriguez, who you may know as Raquel Gonzalez from NXT days, Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Shotzi, and then finally Becky Lynch. This could be a real mixed bag here because there are not many of them with a story going in. Paul needs to either go for a piss or he wants to take the first.
You said that Alexa Bliss was the only previous holder.
Yeah.
Asuka won it 2 years ago.
She didn't. She did win it, but she never held it, did she? Because she didn't get a chance to.
Splitting hairs. But yes.
Her briefcase didn't have a contract inside it. It had a Raw Women's title inside it.
Yeah, whatever. But I'll take first smash it if you want.
Okay.
I think someone had called this on like a fan website about 2 or 3 months ago. It might even be longer than that. But they called it like long-term storyline sort of telling mode would dictate that Liv Morgan would be the person to get the briefcase. Was it at the Royal Rumble that she faced Becky for the title?
Mm-hmm.
And I was convinced she was going to win the title then, and obviously she didn't. And this fan sort of theory put out there that, like, have her go in the title match, make her look strong. She only just loses, then build her up, give her the Money in the Bank contract, and then have her cash in, and that gives this massive sort of good news story or good feeling story moving forward for a title run. And I fully agree. So I would like Liv Morgan as the briefcase winner, please.
Okay, you are in the book. I am going to jump in and not agree with Paul. I am going always in this instance. I will always say that I think that the heels make better holders of the briefcase, unless they're going to cash it in the same night or very quickly. She's been on the poster since its inception. She only just got added to the match this past week, so she was clearly always going to be in and around. And as she had to relinquish her title, as we just discussed through the Money in the Bank means when she went off to have little one, it seemed fitting that she will end up getting the Raw Women's title back via the medium of the briefcase. So I'm going to go for Becky Lynch. Plus, it's probably about the only thing that she hasn't won as well. So just to add that to the FU Charlotte Flair brigade that is seemingly ongoing. Andy?
Rodriguez for me, please.
I would love it if it happens.
I feel like missing out on a couple of opportunities to take down Ronda Rousey previously. I'd imagine that would be an opportunity to get that match and maybe even get a chance of that. I was going to say belt, but title. So that's my pick there.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, she when she debuted on SmackDown, she was very quickly thrust into a title match again at that time against Ronda, as Andy rightly points out, and looked very good in doing so. So that if it happens, that also makes a lot of sense, and not something I'd even thought about. So, Matt, do you want to take the final prediction for the women's?
When you just look at it, and I'm just like, I don't want to pick Becky Lynch, same as you. But then, it's the one that makes the most sense.
I think a lot of them could. I
think Lacey Evans, no. Shotzi, no. Even though Shotzi with the briefcase will be awesome, she'd do something really good with it. But I just don't think she's been enough in it. I like the Liv Morgan thing, but then I kind of get the feeling, is she a bit more like, what's his chops? What's his name? Heavy Machinery guy.
Otis.
Yeah. Is she a little bit Otis kind of thing? Obviously, Alexa Bliss has only just come back. Asuka seems to seems to kind of fallen away a little bit. I like the Raquel Rodriguez one, but then I don't know. No, I'm going to go with Becky Lynch. I think if they're desperate for headliners at the moment, and I'll go with Becky Lynch, and then.
Okay, you're in the book. I think from the field of competitors that they've got, possibly with the exception of, and I'm really sorry to do this to her, but possibly with the exception of Lacey Evans, who will probably now win. I think you'd be happy, I think, if any of the others won, because they've all got a reason to do so. Like Matt said, even Shotzi, yes, she's not been used a lot, but I'm sure she would be incredible at that. Certainly be a call for a customised briefcase for her if she wins. But yeah, so we shall move on to the final match, which will come as no surprise that it is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Once again, WWE.com has confirmed that 7 competitors are to enter the match, but at the point of recording, only 6 have been named. So this gives us the chance to play for another bonus point by picking the last person. So we would expect that will probably be confirmed on SmackDown this coming Friday before the event takes place at the weekend. So all of the men in the match have had to either qualify or face opponents to hold on to their spot. But a special mention to Riddle, who not only got smashed by Omos to allow the Nigerian Giant access into the match, but then had to endure a 20-man battle royal to finally qualify himself. So he has been through the ringer to get to this match. So the full list of competitors are Omos, Seth freaking Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, Riddle, and then the TBC, or currently the Women's Tag Team Champions vacant. Who knows? One of the above. I think that there might be some potentially year-long fantasy booking situation about to grace the airwaves if they play it right, but we shall see. So, who would like to take the first prediction on the final match?
Well, seems though we're all being uber polite, I'll jump in. So, 7th entrant, I will go for Madcap Moss.
Okay.
Winning the briefcase and then going on to give the people in attendance at the Cardiff Principality Stadium a thing to remember will be the Scottish warrior himself, Mr. Drewsif McIntyre.
Okay. Both of those are in the book. Andy, do you want to go?
So, I've been thinking about this all day, and I've changed my actual answer a couple of times. But I thought I'd open up with my seventh person was more of a kind of hope. So I'm not entirely sure what his status is at the moment. But would it really be a Getting Over podcast without me saying these three letters? R K O. Randall Keith as my seventh. Now I don't know what his status is. I don't know. I know he was taking some time off.
Officially, he would be running IR, I guess, if that's the. In the sense of, it's been rumoured that he may be out for the rest of the year because of injuries to his back. However, he has definitely just been on holiday with the family, so
I looked. So for this, I looked at all the names that were going in, and I was like, do you know who would really just put a little pepper on top of that? Randall. So I was like, sod it. I don't even care if he's not active. I don't even care if he's not healthy. I'm putting him down as my seventh. Winner. It's one of those. All day I had the same as Paul. I know I keep saying they really need to do something with Drew. Like they need to have him front and centre, and I don't know why they're not. And it's baffling, and I keep picking him and stuff like that. And then I went a different route with a different freaking contender. But maybe for the last time, I might have to just this one stick with Drew McIntyre for the win.
Okay. So you guys are in the book. Matt, do you want to go or do you want to go last?
Go, you go. I'm still pondering. I'm still like Andy. I've been like, there's one person I keep on coming back to, and then I change my mind, but I'll let you go.
Okay. Well, I am going for winner to be Riddle, and the reason for this is because I absolutely think that Drew will be in the main event at Clash at the Castle, because if not, they've really, really messed something up. But I think because that's such like a nailed-on thing, him winning it almost feels a bit too obvious. So I've gone for Riddle. And in terms of who could possibly win, who could possibly be the extra entrant, I'm going straight up ladder match veteran Kofi Kingston.
Hey, I'm going to go. I thought you were going to say who I've been thinking about all day, and I know he kind of tried to get into it before, but I think somehow AJ Styles is going to work his way into the match.
Okay, that'd be a great shout if he does.
I'm not going to pick Drew because Drew's got too much shit to carry. If he's got a briefcase and that fucking sword, he's going to be way down. My head, I thought, are they going to give it to Omos because maybe that'll help make his character a bit more interesting? Then I was like, Riddle will do something cool with the briefcase, but then to go with my prediction from the women's one. His and hers briefcases, Seth freaking Rollins, because he will also do cool stuff with the Money in the Bank box. It'll match his suit every week or something like that. His boohoo suit.
I've just had a thought that Riddle can use it to keep his important papers in, by which I clearly, definitely mean his contract. Yeah. So that's it. That is all the predictions and all done, all in the book. So yeah, enjoy Money in the Bank, and we shall see who takes that title. Has anybody got any other business?
Nothing for me, sir.
The Stephanie thing, very, very quickly, was, did she have the point I wanted to raise was, did she have the heads up a little while ago when she stepped back for personal reasons? I think we can all possibly agree on that one.
Absolutely.
I've been boiking a load of the former employees. Yeah, that's. Definitely.
It's enough to not be around them for a little while, isn't it? Anyway, that is it. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me as always. Thanks to you guys for watching and listening along. Leave us some likes and comments and subscribes, and tell us who you think is going to win, and see if you can beat us at our own game. All right, until next time, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye. So there you go. What do you think of that? Let us know what your predictions are. Also, if you've not subscribed, drop a subscribe and be in with a chance to win the Funko Pop competition. It's heating up, people. We're getting close. Big thank you to Stu and also Matt and Paul for joining me and being all about the wrestling. You can check out our website, it's thecookiecast.com. Over there we've got social media links and an email button for you to get in touch with us, to let us know your predictions. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.